I opened my inbox and found it. A nude photo of my husband in a hotel bathtub, sent by the woman he said was just a colleague. That was the moment I stopped being a wife and started becoming a storm. I filed for divorce, took the villa, the company shares, and left him with nothing but headlines mocking his downfall. He thought he broke me. No, he crowned me. And I made sure the world watched him kneel. To the world, Daniel Kingsley and I were what fairy tales aspired to be. Two business families, old money, old alliances, joined by fate, wealth, and a pair of best friends who also happened to be our mothers. Apparently, long before we were even born, they were already matchmaking over brunches and prenatal vitamins. They'll be perfect for each other, my mother used to say with a wistful sigh, like she'd summoned us straight out of a storybook. And in a way we were. Daniel and I grew up hand in hand. From sippy cups to student councils, every major milestone of mine had his name somewhere on it. He was 2 months older than me and never let me forget it. Called himself my protector, my big brother. Until I hit 14 and decided Elena Moreau doesn't need a big brother. He needs a partner. He sulked for 2 weeks when I stopped calling him Danny. One of my earliest memories? Crying on the first day of kindergarten. The classroom was too loud, the kids too strange. I froze at the entrance, clutching my tiny backpack like a shield. Then Daniel slipped his hand into mine and whispered, "Don't worry. I'll stay with you." He stayed. All through elementary school, whenever I failed a test, he showed up with strawberry candies and a smug little grin like he'd invented comfort. In middle school, when I got my first period and sat frozen in class, paralyzed with embarrassment, Daniel didn't flinch. He ran to the convenience store, came back with pads, brown sugar water, and a face so red I thought he might faint before I did. "You didn't have to," I'd whispered, my cheeks flushed. "Girls get cramps," he said seriously, quoting the poor store clerk like it was divine wisdom. "That's what she told me. Does yours hurt?" I nodded, too overwhelmed to lie. "Then I'll carry you home." He did. Backpack in one hand, me on his back, walking through the sun-drenched streets like it was nothing. He didn't care who stared. I did, but only because I was trying to memorize the shape of his ears glowing in the sunlight. I think I loved him then. Or at least I loved the version of him I knew. At 18 he made it official. He wore a navy blazer, slicked back his hair, and met me after school holding a bouquet of roses like some classic drama protagonist. "Elena," he started, voice trembling. "I like you. Will you be my girlfriend?" I laughed and cried at the same time, jumping into his arms. Our classmates cheered like we'd just ended a romantic arc they'd all been watching unfold. He told me later, "We've always been close, but I wanted a ceremony. A moment to mark the beginning of us, for real." It worked. I was head over heels. We worked hard, side by side, cramming for exams late into the night, sneaking coffee from my parents' wine fridge to stay awake. Eventually, we both got into the same top-tier university. Our families naturally expected us to major in finance. But I loved mathematics, and to Daniel's credit, he encouraged me. "You should do what you love," he said one night, running his thumb along the curve of my jaw. "I'll go into finance. I'll build something strong enough to shield you from anything." I believed him. Our parents believed him. My father once said, "Daniel's not just your fiancé, Elena. He's family. After we're gone, he'll protect you better than we ever could." By 22, we were married in a ceremony so extravagant it trended for a full week. Designers, politicians, foreign press. It was the wedding of the decade. We moved into a villa midway between both our companies, a house we picked out together. Every curtain, every rug, every vase, we chose it all hand in hand. For a while it was bliss. At least I thought it was. Until one ordinary Tuesday afternoon something shifted. It was subtle. Barely even a moment. But when you've known someone as long as I've known Daniel, you feel the tremors before the cracks. He was in the kitchen pouring coffee. His phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at the screen. Just instinct. A message preview flashed from a name I didn't recognize. "Clara, don't forget our coffee meeting to hot beverage, smiley face." It could have been innocent. Probably was innocent. Except Daniel noticed me looking and grabbed the phone a little too fast. "Oh," he said lightly, setting the cup down. "She's one of the interns at Kingsley Global. I'm mentoring her for a project." I nodded. Smiled. Didn't say a word. But something lodged itself in my throat and stayed there for hours. That night, as he dozed beside me, I searched my memory for that name, Clara. Had he mentioned her before? Once? Twice? I couldn't remember. And I hated that I couldn't remember. A week later he mentioned her again. Clara's got a good eye for branding, he said over dinner, twirling his pasta. She reminds me of you, actually. Same sharp instincts. I laughed. It was small, tight, and didn't quite reach my eyes. Reminds you of me? I echoed, sipping my wine. Well, let's hope she doesn't try to marry you too. He looked up, startled. What? I shrugged. I'm just saying. Would be awkward to fight myself for you. He blinked. Then laughed it off. But I saw the flicker of something. Unease? Guilt? Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, while Daniel's breathing slowed beside me. I wasn't angry. Not yet. But I was alert now. Tuning in. Watching patterns. Because here's the thing. A woman doesn't stop trusting overnight. But she does start remembering. Every smile that seemed too rehearsed, every phone screen turned too fast, every scent that didn't belong to her perfume drawer. And while I didn't know it yet, Clara would not be the last name I'd remember. It was such a soft, harmless name, one that wouldn't raise any alarm on its own. Not until it started appearing everywhere. She reminds me of you, Daniel had said once, completely offhand over dinner. Same attention to detail. Same calm. I smiled and twirled my wine, pretending to be flattered. But inside something itched. That itch turned into a burn the night I scrolled through the university's confession wall. It was late, well past midnight. Daniel had texted me that he was working late again and might crash at the office. I wasn't suspicious. Not yet. I was just bored. Then I saw the headline. Caught them. Daniel, Kingsley and Clara from Lit. Look how cute, smiling face with heart eyes dizzy. My thumb hovered. I clicked play. The video was short. Shaky footage, clearly filmed from behind a bush, with sunlight casting golden halos around the two figures seated beneath a campus willow tree. Daniel sat close to a girl with a soft, dewy face. Her voice couldn't be heard, but her expression was animated as she talked. He listened like the world had fallen away. Then he reached out and tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. The same way he used to do with me. Back when we were in high school and he thought I was the only girl in the universe. My breath caught. I watched it again. And again. Each time my body grew colder. My hand trembled as I scrolled through the comments. They've been flirting for weeks. She confessed to him last month. They look so natural together, smiling face with heart is dot. I closed the app. Locked the phone. Stared at the ceiling. I wasn't crying. Not yet. I was trying to calculate how much of my life had been real. The front door opened minutes later. Sophia stepped in holding a bag of takeout. She took one look at me and froze. Elena. I didn't speak. Elena, are you okay? I stood up, barefoot, still in my silk robe, phone clutched tight in my hand. I need to go find him, I murmured. Right now. No, she said firmly. Not like this. I need to know if he'll lie to my face. Sophia blocked the door. Do you even know what you look like right now? She asked gently. She led me to the mirror. I barely recognized the woman staring back. Pale face, wild hair, tear-streaked cheeks. One button undone. No shoes. I looked wrecked. Oh, I looked lost. This isn't you, Sophia said. She handed me a glass of water. I drank slowly, holding it with both hands like it was the only solid thing I had left. And then I broke. I sank to the floor and sobbed silently, knees pulled to my chest, trying to fold in on myself. Sophia sat beside me and let me cry. It wasn't the betrayal that shattered me. It was the memory of all the moments that had felt so real, the ones now hanging in the air like lies with good lighting. After a while I whispered, he didn't even try to hide it. Sophia's voice was quiet but steel-wrapped. You're Elena Morrow. You don't beg for explanations. You don't chase. And you sure as hell don't cry over men who can't recognize diamonds. That pulled a shaky laugh from my throat. He used to say I sparkled, I murmured bitterly. Then maybe it's time to blind him. The next morning I woke up before the sun. My pillow was still damp. My heart still heavy. But something had shifted. I didn't reach for my phone. I didn't text Daniel. I walked straight to the window and opened it wide. The cold breeze slapped my face. And I let it. It reminded me that I was still here. Still breathing. Still mine. Daniel texted at noon. Daniel, hope you slept well. Meetings dragging. Miss you blue heart. I stared at the screen for 10 seconds before typing a response. Then I stopped. What was the point? I wasn't ready to play that game. Not yet. I needed time. And information. And more than anything, I needed to find the version of me who wasn't built around him. That night, I sat on the bathroom floor with my laptop and opened a search tab. Top executive finance courses online. Intro to M&A law. Corporate forensic accounting. I bookmarked everything. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for yet. But I knew I had to become someone who couldn't be lied to. Not again. Not without consequence. Later that week, Daniel came home with my favorite cake from that little bakery downtown. I passed by on the way home. Thought of you, he said, smiling like nothing had happened. I took the cake, kissed his cheek, smiled, and inside, I started taking notes. I didn't confront him. I didn't scream. I didn't ask about Clara. Because I'd seen enough in that video to know one thing. He was willing to act like she mattered. And he was certain I'd never leave. I planned to keep it that way. For now. Because if he thought I was going to crumble, then he truly didn't know me at all. He once told me I was his son. That everything in his life revolved around me. Well, darling, let's see how long you last without my light. The night Daniel tucked my hair behind my ear and told me I was his whole world, I smiled. Then I excused myself, walked into the ensuite bathroom and calmly deleted the draft text I'd written days earlier. The one that said, "We need to talk." Because I no longer needed to talk. I needed to act. And if he was going to cheat with a woman he thought I couldn't compete with, then I'd outmaneuver him using someone he never even saw as a threat. It started simply. "Daniel," I said one morning over breakfast, swirling my spoon through yogurt, "do you remember Sophia Loren?" He didn't even look up from his phone. "Your roommate? The quiet one?" He just graduated. Top of her class. Looking for something in corporate strategy. He nodded absently, scrolling. "Smart girl. She's brilliant. She's also loyal, focused, and knows how to keep her mouth shut. You could use someone like that at Kingsley Global." He finally looked at me. "You think so?" I smiled over my coffee. "I know so. Why don't you give her an interview?" It wasn't even a lie. Sophia really was brilliant. And loyal, to me. When she joined Kingsley Global the following week as a junior analyst, no one blinked. Why would they? I was just the doting wife helping her friend get a foot in the door. The CEO's wife recommending a recent graduate? It was practically expected. Daniel even laughed about it. "Remind me to give you a recruiting bonus," he teased. I kissed his cheek. "Just make sure she learns from the best." He chuckled, full of ego and charm, not realizing he'd just opened his kingdom's gates to the one woman who would help dismantle it from within. From that day on, I played my role so well I deserved an award. I stopped asking where he was late at night. I started sending cute lunchboxes to his office, complete with handwritten notes and heart stickers. I even let Clara's name slip into casual conversation, just to watch his reaction. "Clara seems sweet," I said once, sitting on his lap after a dinner party. "So bright and eager. She reminds me of me when we first met." He froze for a second, just a flicker, then smiled. "You're one of a kind, Daniel. You really think I don't see when you flinch? It's cute." Meanwhile, Sophia played her part too. Sweet, humble, quiet. But behind closed doors she sent me weekly reports. Daniel gave final approval on the Crosswell acquisition. Legal's overwhelmed with partner contracts. Easy place to plant delays. Clara's working in the brand team. Rumors she's getting special treatment. We never called. Never texted. Never emailed. We had a Dropbox folder named Recipes. Inside were spreadsheets, board memos, and financial statements disguised as meal plans. No one questioned it. No one even noticed. And Daniel? He had no idea. He thought I was still the same pampered princess who only cared about charity galas and throw pillow arrangements. "I don't know what I'd do without you," he said one night, pulling me close after a long day. "You've always made everything easier." I kissed his jaw. And thought about how many Kingsley accounts I'd already diverted to Moreau Industries with just a few whispered hints to my father. "You don't have to do anything without me," I murmured. He smiled, sleepy and smug, and drifted off. And I lay beside him, calculating how long it would take before he realized the life he loved was being peeled from him, silk thread by silk thread. It was disturbingly easy. Every time he flirted with a secretary, I transferred a contract. Every time Clara posted a new picture with a mystery man in the background, I called our in-house legal team and began digging into asset clauses. The more he lied, the more I smiled. The more he betrayed, the more I took. Until the cracks in Kingsley Global were no longer cosmetic. They were structural. 3 months in, Sophia flagged a project that caught my eye. Daniel's starting a new merger. Quiet. He hasn't told the board yet. But I pulled early drafts from the server. I read the documents with a calm I didn't even know I had anymore. Multi-million-dollar deal. Undisclosed assets. Sketchy partnerships. He was trying to expand quickly, probably to impress investors. Probably also to distract from his increasingly frequent business trips. I forwarded it to my father with a sticky note. Thought this might interest Moreau Industries. Quietly. 2 weeks later, the deal collapsed after our legal team, coincidentally, leaked regulatory inconsistencies to the media. Kingsley Global's stock dipped 3.7%. Daniel came home angry that night. Kicked off his shoes, loosened his tie, ranted about incompetent board members. I handed him a glass of wine and rubbed his shoulders. Poor baby. Business is so brutal. He didn't notice the glint in my eye. He didn't know I was the one tightening the noose. Sometimes I'd walk through our villa and glance at the photos on the wall. Us in Paris. Us graduating. Us dancing at our wedding. And I'd smile. Because in every photo he looked so confident. So certain that he had me. And he did. Until I learned what he really looked like when he thought I wasn't watching. Until I saw the version of him that flirted when my back was turned. That smiled at other women the same way he used to smile at me. That thought love was permanent just because it came gift-wrapped with a prenup he forgot existed. But Daniel, you were supposed to be the smart one. Final scene. One night after dinner he sat beside me on the couch and kissed my temple. You've been so amazing lately, he said, completely unprompted. I looked up from my book. Just, thank you for always trusting me. I stared at him for a beat too long. Then I smiled slowly. Of course, I said. I trust you to always be exactly who you are. He blinked. Tilted his head. What's that supposed to mean? I kissed his cheek. Nothing, darling. Just a little inside joke. He laughed, totally unaware that the inside woman he should have worried about was already inside everything he owned. 3 more months passed. Daniel still thought we were happily married. I still let him think so. He'd come home from work, kiss me on the forehead and tell me I was the calm in his storm. And I'd smile, rub his back and mentally calculate which Kingsley client I'd be steering toward Moreau Industries next. Let him think I was the calm. What I really was. The earthquake waiting beneath his foundation. By now, Sophia had her own office at Kingsley Global. She was the rising star, the analytical genius Daniel praised to the board, not knowing she was reporting every spreadsheet, email and hush-hush meeting directly to me. And the board adored her. Quiet. Efficient. No nonsense. I'm thinking of grooming her for a VP role, Daniel told me one night over dinner. I smiled. Smart. You could use someone trustworthy. He raised his glass to mine. Like you. I clinked my glass and thought, oh sweetheart. You've never had someone more trustworthy. To your enemies. On the surface I played the part beautifully. I still wore the wedding ring. Still planned charity galas. Still posted loving couple photos on our anniversary. The comments were always the same. Power couple goals. They're so perfect together. This is what old money love looks like. If only they knew. Because behind the curtain the empire was already split. Moreau Industries had absorbed 5 of Kingsley's mid-tier clients. Every time Daniel took a secret weekend business trip, I had my lawyer quietly review more of his holdings. Every time he gifted Clara another expensive purse, or bracelet or necklace, I documented it. Every bill he paid from our joint accounts? Evidence. Every reservation he booked under a fake name? Time-stamped. Every sweet photo he thought he was hiding? Archived in a folder labeled Leverage. Then one morning Sophia dropped a bomb. She messaged our shared cloud folder with attachments. One photo of Daniel shirtless in a hotel suite. One screenshot of a confirmation for 2 plane tickets to Bali. Then got one more message from unknown number and image. Clara. In red lingerie, draped over Daniel's lap like she just won a prize. I stared at it. No emotion. No trembling. Just quiet. Like a door clicking shut forever. I knew Clara had ambition. I didn't realize she was also arrogant. Because she'd sent the photos to me through a fake account, of course. I recognized the writing style instantly. I'd seen her emails. Her obsession with exclamation marks and passive-aggressive emojis was unmistakable. She wrote, "You've been so generous for so long. Just letting you know I'll take good care of him, winking face." How thoughtful. I forwarded it to my lawyer and added a single note. Time to retrieve the prenup. I had tucked that document away like a relic. Filed under sentiment once, now under justice. Back then, Daniel had signed it without hesitation. "I'll never hurt you," he'd said. "This is just a formality. You'll never need it." Both our families had witnessed it. His father even patted his back and called him a real man. Now that prenup was a loaded weapon. Because buried on page 6 in fine print Daniel never bothered to read, was a clause that stated, "In the event of marital misconduct, 90% of the husband's Kingsley Global shares shall transfer to the wife, without compensation." At the time it had seemed romantic. Now it was poetic justice. I sat in the study that night, sipping wine, flipping through the prenup by the light of a desk lamp. Each word was music. Each clause was revenge wrapped in legal grammar. When Daniel came home around 11 p.m., I greeted him at the door like always. "Long day?" I asked. He looked tired. "Guilt does that to a man." "Yeah. Investors are jumpy. I'm flying out next week for a retreat. Just me and the guys." "How nice," I said, brushing imaginary lint off his lapel. 2 days later, I quietly reached out to a real estate agent. I told them I wanted to sell the villa, but discreetly. No public listings. I wanted a buyer who could move quickly and pay in full. By the end of the week we had one. Someone from out of town, eager for a luxury home. I began removing my things from the house. Fully. Silently. Annie, our housekeeper, helped me pack in secret. She never asked why, just followed my instructions like the mother she'd always been to me. Room by room the place emptied. Not even Daniel noticed. He was too busy texting Clara and preparing for his retreat. The night before he left, I brought him a glass of wine. He took it without question, kissed my hand and said, "I don't deserve you." I smiled. "No," I agreed softly. "You don't." He didn't catch the meaning. He never did. Final scene. After Daniel left for Bali, I contacted my cleaning crew. By the time he returned, every item with my name on it, gone. The furniture, the wedding photos, packed and stored. The art, replaced. The locks, changed. I stood by the window of my family's estate and watched the last of my boxes arrive, hands folded, heart steady. Let him come home. Let him find his throne gone, his crown stolen. Let him try to figure out how the queen slipped through the cracks while he was too busy chasing pawns. I watched the last moving truck pull away from the villa that morning. The driveway was spotless. The garden trimmed. Curtains removed. Every photo frame that once held our memories was gone, replaced by air. By the time Daniel returned from his little tropical escape with Clara, the only thing left inside that house was a keycard that wouldn't work anymore. And a stranger who now called it home. He called me once mid-flight, oblivious. His voice was bright, charming, the same syrupy tone he used whenever he wanted to pretend nothing was wrong. "Elena," he said, "I've missed you so much. I'll make it up to you when I'm back. I promise." I told him there'd be a surprise waiting for him. And I meant it. He arrived 2 days later. I didn't see it, but I can imagine it well enough. Him pulling up to the gate in his sleek car, probably with Clara still in tow, wearing something designer and trying not to look smug. Daniel would have expected the usual. The gate opening automatically, the lights flicking on like clockwork, the familiar rhythm of his perfect life resuming. Instead the gate stayed shut. The sensor didn't respond. He must have frowned. Tried the keypad. Tried the app. Tried the override. Nothing. By the time he rang the bell, the new owner was already sipping espresso inside. I'd met him personally. A quiet hedge fund type relocating from Paris. Polite, fast with paperwork and not the least bit nosy. So when he opened the door and saw Daniel standing there, I imagine he was confused. And then slightly amused. "Who are you?" Daniel probably barked. And the man, calm, relaxed in loungewear, must have tilted his head and said something like, "The owner. Who are you?" I would have paid good money to see the look on Daniel's face when he realized that not only had I removed every trace of myself from the villa, I had removed him too. I was at my parents' estate when the call came in. Annie, our housekeeper, informed me that Mr. Kingsley had shown up at the gate. And my mother, God bless her fury, was ready to personally throw him out. "Let him in," I said, sipping my tea. "But ask him to use the back entrance." My mother narrowed her eyes. "You're being far too calm." I smiled at her over the rim of my cup. I'm done raising my voice for people who only listen when I whisper. He arrived breathless, red in the face. "Elena," he gasped. "What the hell is going on? The house, where is everything? Some guy said he bought it." I looked at him like he'd just asked me why the sun rose in the east. "I sold it." "You what?" "The villa was in my name, Daniel. You just lived there. That was our marital home. And now we're not married," I said, handing him a folder. So I corrected that little contradiction. He stared at the documents like they were written in another language. "Divorce petition," I said plainly. "Filed 2 weeks ago. Served legally while you were, what was it again? Paragliding." "I never saw this." "Clara deleted the message while you were in the shower," I said. "She's not just a mistress, she's also a hazard to your legal awareness." His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. I could almost see the moment his brain caught up. "You knew." "Of course." He stepped forward. "Elena, don't." His arms froze mid-reach. "Don't give me a speech you practiced on the plane. Don't tell me it was meaningless. Don't insult both of us by pretending you're sorry." "But I am." "No," I interrupted. "You're scared. That's not the same thing." He dropped his voice as if whispering would earn points for sincerity. "I never meant to hurt you." I laughed softly. "You really don't know me at all." He looked genuinely lost. "Then what do you want?" What did I want? I wanted my dignity back. My name untangled from his. My reputation separated from his lies. I wanted to erase the version of me that ever waited at the door for a man who would rather be in someone else's bed. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I tilted my head and replied, "I want you to walk out of here knowing I will never be yours again." He stared at me, stunned, silent. "Elena, I love you." I smiled. "You love comfort. You love praise. You love women who remind you of me until they start acting like they matter." "I made a mistake." "You made a series of choices. Don't downgrade them into a singular accident." He started to cry. It was dramatic, messy, almost convincing. I felt nothing. Not rage. Not sadness. Not even disgust. Just peace. Maybe that was the scariest part for him. That I wasn't yelling. I wasn't breaking. I wasn't begging for answers or retribution. I was just finished. He reached for my hand. I stepped back. "Elena, please. Can we just talk? Just once more. This is the last time." I turned away. "Elena." I stopped. "You get to keep your last name," I said over my shoulder. "That's all." And I walked inside without looking back. The morning after Daniel stood at my parents' gate crying like a boy who lost his toy, I wore my sharpest black blazer, tied my hair into a low chignon, and met my lawyer at 9 a.m. on the dot. We reviewed everything. Twice. The prenup. The evidence. The asset documentation. Every withdrawal he made on our joint account. Every gift Clara had flaunted on Instagram, from the matching designer watches to the spa retreat that mysteriously lined up with one of his team-building offsites. My lawyer slid a folder across the table, thick and perfectly clipped. "This," he said, "is your win in legal form." I didn't blink. "Good. Let's move." The court date arrived 2 days later. Daniel didn't show. Not because he was unaware, but because Clara had deleted the legal notice the night I sent it. She must have thought erasing the message would give her more time to secure her spot in his life. I hope she enjoyed it, because that night was the last time she'd ever matter. Thanks to the ironclad prenup Daniel signed with full mental clarity and far too much bravado, the judge didn't hesitate. Infidelity. Documentation. Asset misuse. Uncontested response. The court ruled entirely in my favor. The marriage. The wealth. The Kingsley shares. Transferring. While Daniel was still trying to figure out why his name wasn't on his stock dashboard, I walked into Kingsley Global's boardroom with my lawyer, my ownership documents, and the divorce ruling in one hand. The moment I stepped inside, all eyes turned. And stayed there. Charles Kingsley, Daniel's father, the reigning chairman, looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Elena," he said, voice trembling with faux charm. "What brings you here?" "I called this emergency shareholders meeting, Mr. Kingsley," I said smoothly, placing the court papers on the table. His smile faltered. "But you're not." "I am," I said. "As of yesterday, the single largest shareholder in Kingsley Global." He stared. "I believe," I added, "that gives me voting rights." Sophia was already seated near the end of the long glass table, calm and poised, dressed in navy. No one paid attention to her. That was their first mistake. Because Sophia Loren held 12% of Kingsley Global, collected quietly over the past year by acquiring minor shareholder positions. She had transferred every last one to me the moment the court ruled. With the 30% I now owned from Daniel's forfeited shares and Sophia's 12%, I controlled the board. But I didn't walk in waving flags. I sat, crossed my legs, pulled out the agenda, and smiled. "We'll begin with a vote to appoint a new chairperson." Gasps. Shuffling papers. Confused murmurs. And I waited for someone to object. No one did. They didn't need loyalty. They needed dividends. And I was the only one in the room holding receipts and profits. Charles finally spoke. "Elena, this is your family. We're family." I met his eyes and said, "Correction. Was." His jaw tightened. "You can't just destroy your husband like this." "You mean ex-husband? You're going to ruin his future." "He ruined his marriage. I'm just collecting the pieces." He opened his mouth again. So I slid a folder toward him. "Since you enjoy paperwork, here's documentation of your son's hotel receipts, the unauthorized asset transfers, and the text he sent to 3 different women while we were still married." He paled. "And yes, those are screenshots of him shirtless holding a wine glass your board paid for." When Daniel finally arrived, he looked wild. Unshaven. Eyes frantic. The moment he stepped into the boardroom, he saw me in the chair at the head of the table and froze. "Elena," he gasped. "What are you doing?" I stood and handed him a copy of the judgment. "I filed for divorce." His hand trembled. You didn't tell me." "I did. You just didn't check your messages." He went pale. "Clara, she deleted them." I tilted my head. "And you gave her access to your phone. That's on you." He whispered, "This isn't fair." I looked around the room. "Gentlemen, is anything I've done outside the law?" Silence. The legal team shook their heads. I turned back to Daniel. "This is more than fair. It's efficient." Charles stood now furious. "You've embarrassed my son. Do you realize how this will look to the press?" "Oh, don't worry," I said, picking up my bag. "I've already scheduled the press release. I even used a photo where Daniel doesn't look like he just got cheated on and bankrupt." His mouth opened, but I was already walking away. Sophia stood with me. We left the boardroom without looking back. By the time we reached the elevator, Daniel followed. He caught the doors just before they closed. "Elena, wait," he said, almost breathless. I didn't turn around. "I didn't mean to lose you." "You didn't lose me," I said coolly. "You handed me over." His voice broke. "Please, don't take everything." I finally looked at him. "I took exactly what you gave me." And as the elevator doors slid shut, I smiled. After the shareholders' meeting, Daniel disappeared for 2 days. Not from the tabloids, those vultures were having a feast, but from me. He stopped calling. Stopped texting. Not that it mattered. I had no intentions of answering anyway. The last message he ever sent to my phone read, "Can we meet? Just talk. Please." I left it unread. Just like he did to my divorce notice. In the days that followed, the news spread faster than wildfire. Elena Moreau appointed chair of Kingsley Global. Golden couple no more. Elena ends marriage and claims corporate throne. Daniel Kingsley's downfall. What went wrong? The media had a field day. So did our rivals. 3 competing families pulled their deals from Kingsley Global within the week. I didn't lift a finger. Kingsley stock plummeted another 9%. Sophia briefed me with a calm smile. They're bleeding cash and board loyalty. Let them, I said, crossing my legs in the executive chair Daniel once believed was permanently his. I'm in the mood to watch something burn. Charles Kingsley was the first to call me. He was civil. Apologetic. His voice thin and shaking. Elena, I know we've had our differences. But surely you wouldn't let your personal matters affect the company's health. I let him speak. Listened even. And when he finally paused to breathe, I said, I'm not letting personal matters affect anything. I'm letting your son's incompetence affect everything. He tried again. There's no Kingsley Global without the Kingsleys. We built this. And now the Moreaus own it, I said coolly. Consider it a hostile embrace. He hung up without another word. Daniel tried to fight back at first. He attempted to hold press conferences, claiming his private life shouldn't reflect his professional leadership. That didn't work. He tried to rally support from the board, only to find the majority had already signed loyalty agreements with me. That didn't work either. He even tried to smear me. Rumors about our marriage. Whispers about manipulation. Gossip suggesting I had set him up. Pathetic. I didn't respond once. I let the headlines devour him. Because I'd learned long ago, nothing is more satisfying than silence when someone expects your screams. Eventually, Daniel stopped showing up to the office entirely. And that's when I made my move. I called for another shareholders' meeting. Walked in dressed in charcoal gray, hair sleek, heels sharper than ever. Sophia flanked me like a general. The meeting lasted 10 minutes. I presented the data. Declining stock, severed partnerships, public embarrassment, investor withdrawal. I ended with, Daniel Kingsley is no longer fit to serve in any capacity within this organization. Effective immediately, I motion for his complete removal. Unanimous vote. Even the director who used to toast Daniel at galas didn't flinch as he signed the dismissal. Just like that, he was gone. Daniel found out the same way the rest of the world did. From a press release I personally approved. He showed up at the Moreau estate that night. I was in the drawing room reviewing quarterly projections when he burst in, sweating, pale, desperate. Elena, he said, his voice breaking. How could you do this? I didn't even look up from the papers. I warned you. You didn't read the fine print. This was supposed to be our legacy. No. This was my name, my family's fortune, and your borrowed status. He stepped forward. I finally looked up. What did you think was going to happen, Daniel? I asked softly. That I'd cry? Forgive you? Let you keep the company you tried to cheat your way through while I smiled in pearls at press conferences. I built that company, he snapped. No, I said, standing slowly. You were handed that company. I built its backbone while you were too busy chasing interns and playing CO. He stared at me, trembling. Do you hate me? No, I said truthfully. I just don't care anymore. Sophia entered moments later with a letter in hand. His resignation, she said, handing it to me. I signed it without hesitation. Daniel watched the whole thing like it was a funeral. In a way it was. But not mine. As he turned to leave, shoulders hunched, I said one final thing. Do you know why you fell, Daniel? He stopped at the doorway, silent. Because you thought I was playing house. I was playing empire. He left without a word. Final scene. That night, I sat in my office at Kingsley Global, now officially renamed Moreau Kingsley Holdings just for the poetic symmetry. I looked out the window at the skyline Daniel used to brag about conquering. And I thought, he wanted to be a king. But kings fall. Queens, on the other hand? We rebuild thrones. 6 months. That's how long it took for everything Daniel had to unravel. The press no longer referred to him as CEO of Kingsley Global. They called him the disgraced heir. Rival publications labeled him the man who lost it all to his ex-wife. Even Clara, sweet gold-digging Clara, left him the moment she realized the penthouse had been leased in the company's name. No villa. No wealth. No crown. Just a man standing in the ruins of the empire he thought he owned. Me. I didn't just survive. I soared. The Moreau name was now etched into contracts across Europe and Asia. The company's rebrand, Moreau Kingsley Holdings, was praised as a feminist market correction. I didn't ask for the label. But I wore it anyway. I never did another magazine interview. I let the numbers speak instead. Quarterly profits doubled. Investor confidence returned. And Sophia Loren, my sister in everything but blood, was now head of global strategy. She once told me, the best revenge isn't public. It's profitable. We made it both. I never responded to Daniel's final letter. It was handwritten. 4 pages. Delivered by courier. He said he missed my laugh. That I was his home. That Claire never loved him the way I did. He ended with, if I ever make it back, will you be waiting? I smiled. Then shredded it. One afternoon I visited the Kingsley estate. Not to rekindle anything. Just to see what was left. The gates were padlocked. The windows dusty. The once pristine hedges overgrown. And taped to the front door was a foreclosure notice. I didn't step inside. I simply tucked a small note beneath the iron knocker and left. Read. You could have had everything. But you wanted more than loyalty. You wanted power. I gave you both and you lost them. That's not my tragedy. That's your legacy. Back in my own estate I walked through the halls in silence. No ghosts. No bitterness. Just light. And the steady hum of peace. I poured myself a glass of wine and stood by the balcony, watching the city glow beneath me. This was my life now. And for the first time it was entirely mine. No man's name. No husband's shadow. No need to explain my strength to anyone. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I had simply moved on. Do I believe in love again? That's the question people ask, often whispered behind crystal glasses at charity galas. Does Elena Moreau still believe in love? I do. But not the kind that waits for approval. Not the kind that sacrifices self-worth for a dinner reservation or a hollow promise. I believe in a love that chooses me, not despite my strength but because of it. And until that finds me, I'm perfectly fine being the woman I built myself to be. As I turned away from the window, my reflection caught in the glass. The same woman who once cried herself to sleep beside a man who lied. But this time she wasn't breaking. She was whole. And radiant. A queen not born but made. Final line. He broke the vows. But I wrote the legacy. And it begins with my name. Elena Moreau. The end.